Good morning, everyone. What is it? It's Thursday. Happy Thursday, everyone. It is Thursday, November 6th, and look who's coming along. This always happens. I've been in the room the entire time, and then as soon as I come along, there's my little baby right there. See? Anyway, that's Treasure. Good morning, everyone. All right, so energetically, I am feeling exhausted. However, at the same time, I got a lot of sleep last night, which is good. I haven't had much sleep in the past week, so the fact that I was able to sleep, good thing. Still feeling a little congestion, but I'm actually surprised that I'm talking. There's a little bit of hoarseness to my throat and a little bit of hoarseness to my breathing, because I'm finding myself that I am getting very, very winded. But I think I'll be okay. We're going to do this reading. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep... I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep doing this. Welcome, Angel. How are you today? I hope everything is good. Treasure, you're going to have to get off the Bible. Yeah, here, look at this. She just decided. She's like, I'm going to be reading with Mommy, but you can't be hanging out here. She can hang out. She just wants to stay here. But hello, I'm good, super tired, been cleaning. That's the first thing I was saying. I ended up getting sleep last night, which is good, but I'm feeling very, very run down. And with the cold and the change of season, my breathing is a little off. So I might sound Hope. Sorry, guys, that was Hope. But I do hope you feel better. Try to take it easy. I was cleaning this morning. I did some laundry. I did the dishes. I'm the type, I know this is such a bad habit, but Chris knows about this. I have trouble doing dishes at the end of the night. So I always do dishes in the morning, which what I usually do is I'll just soak them at night, so this way it's easier to clean and stuff like that. But I know some people have the attitude, it's like, you have to do the dishes right after dinner. For me, it's like, you just ate, you need to relax, unwind, getting up, cleaning, and doing the dishes. So because I wake up early every morning, I'm usually in the kitchen first thing in the morning, scrubbing the kitchen. I woke up late today, which I'm surprised, because usually I wake up with Chris and I completely slept through even him waking up and going to work. And he even said, he's like, you finally got sleep. Because I said to him, I'm like, you didn't wake me up, you didn't. He's like, you finally got sleep. I know you're not feeling well. So he's like, just sleep it off. So, yeah, so I ended up sleeping in today, which is highly unusual for me. I feel better, but like I said, I'm still winded. So if my breathing's a little off, if my voice is a little off, sorry about that. I just hope and I pray that whatever ailment I have is going to pass quickly, because like I said, during the winter time, I always get sick during the winter time. All right, so anyway, we are doing chapter 30 of Exodus. Now, I didn't read ahead. I was just skimming ahead. So I'm actually glad that we are going to come back to a storyline on chapter 31. So I'm going to read chapter 30, and I'll probably brush through this quickly, because for the past chapters, and I'm going to say starting at chapter 20. So for the past 10 chapters, we literally have been getting the step-by-step guide on how to build this tabernacle, how to worship the Lord, and the specifications that he wants his people to follow. Now, my personal opinion, which may be found offensive to some people, and I apologize, is I almost feel like these chapters 21 through 30 have either been interjected by man, or this is not God speaking. And let me explain. I'm not trying to push evil views or anything like that. But when I think of God, okay, and like I said, I'm still learning my path, but when I think of God, I'm thinking of an omnipotent being that's loving, that's kind, that's caring, that wants good for the people. Okay? When I read chapters 20 to 30 in Exodus, I don't get that feeling. What I'm getting is the Lord is very greedy, vain, that he's, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, he wants to be idolized. And it's like, I don't think a God, I mean, I know this is going to sound crazy. If God is really all powerful, all knowing, why would he want people to literally idolize him? And I mean, I almost want to say it's like I'm reading step-by-step guide of a movie star. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just trying to get followers. And I feel like either how they describe the Lord in these 9 chapters is either a bad side to him, or maybe it's a completely different God to begin with. Because I know I've been struggling with that idea. And I ask for clarity. In fact, I didn't do my prayer. I'm going to do my prayer in a minute. But I ask for clarity because every time I'm reading the Lord in this, he's so much in a different light than the different honorifics. And everybody's saying, oh, it's the same person. But I'm going back to Genesis, where it literally says, these are the generations of creation. Generations being plural. It didn't say this is the generation of creation, meaning that this is just one generation. It says these are the generations of creation. And they said that a couple of times. These are the generations, which means there's multiple storylines. There's multiple generations. There's multiple, and we already know that there's multiple gods. So I want to just foreshadow for a minute without actually knowing. But my question is, and please forgive me if this is an evil thought, with each book is a different writer. I'm almost wondering, because we're still in the point of view of Moses. Moses was the one that did the first 5 chapters. Okay? So I'm almost wondering, when we get to the next apostle, I guess they're called, or the next writer who is speaking through God, are we going to see a transformation with how God or the Lord is referred to? I don't know. I'm foreshadowing. And I could be wrong for foreshadowing. But like I said, just the way the Lord is described in this, it's not somebody I want to worship. And I'm only saying for this, because I know what's going to happen in the New Testament. I know how Jesus is going to be. But I'm talking about strictly word for word, how the Lord is being described, particularly in Exodus chapter 20 through 30. Now, I haven't read 30 yet. But let me start off with a prayer, because I'm feeling, I know I'm being probably blinded and attacked, but what if that is the answer, that when they talk about these are the generations, that we literally are looking at the generations, and each of these books are referring to a different persona of God, or literally a different God? It's just a question. I'm not trying to be, I'm not trying to persuade evilness or blasphemy or anything like that, but this is the story, and this is the living word, and this is how things change. So, excuse me. Yeah, I might be coughing, guys, so please bear with me. But let me start off with a prayer, because I'm definitely going to need clarity. And all right, so grant me the wisdom, grant me the guidance, grant me the clarity to read your word and understand exactly the words that are coming from these books. Give me guidance as well as for myself and the audience who follows. Allow the debate, the topics, the discussion to be positive, to be learning and educational, and grant me the wisdom to understand your path and your guidance for me. Also, I pray that my voice will be able to have the strength to read this entire time and to not be afflicted by any illness or any ill health. I pray for thee, and I thank you so much for your help. Amen. So, let's see how this goes. And like I said, we're on chapter 30. I'm going to read 30 a little quickly. But it says, Deuteronomy, and these curses shall be signs in you and wonders among your seed forever. All right, you know something? I'll write that down. We haven't gotten to Deuteronomy yet. I want to see the context because cursed is he who does not establish the words of this Torah. I want to see the context of 27:26. Welcome to the show. At his name. My general rule is I will always go backwards from the point I am on. I will not go forward. However, if anybody does make a Bible quote, I will write it down for when we get up to that. This way we can definitely analyze it. Romans 3:31, do we nullify the Torah through the belief? Let it not be, on the contrary, we establish the Torah. I'm just curious, are you a follower of Christianity, Judaism, or a different? I'm just curious. You're going really fast with the quotes, but I won't be able to write all of these down. I hope it saves. I never actually checked. Does it go back or does it delete quotes? Not too sure. But feel free to write as many quotes as you want down. Maybe people will find guidance to them. So, but if you're going to be doing quote after quote with no explanation or no context of why you're writing those quotes, then I'm just going to leave them in the chat and I won't. Jesus is English for the Greek, which means hail of why you're writing those quotes, then I'm just going to leave them in the chat and I won't. Jesus is English for the Greek, which means hail Zeus in Greek. Yahshua. Okay. I can't read Hebrew, so I don't know what if that is even Hebrew. I'm not too sure. We haven't even gotten up to Jesus, so we'll see what happens. But let me go on to chapter 3, because like I said, the one thing that I'm having trouble with is the fact that the way the Lord is described, particularly in these 10 chapters, the question I have is and I'm looking at this from different angles. First angle, let's look at it, what everybody's telling me. It's one and the same. This is the Lord, this is the God, He is the omnipotent being, He is the one that created everything, and this is what He wants of His people. If that's the case, then there definitely is a transition throughout the whole Bible of what He wants now compared to what He wanted then. And I want to see that metamorphic change. So that's option number one, that God, Lord, everybody is the same thing. Option number two, which I'm thinking, is that the Lord is the spiritual son of God. He's one of the descendants of God. And He obviously has a different point of view than what His spiritual father, God, the one who created everything, and we're looking at from the point of view of His Son. That's number two. Number three, and this is another theory, is that each books, which is written by a different, and I hope I'm using the word correctly, apostle, or a different writer, which is channeling the Word of God to place it on a piece of paper. It's making me wonder, because the first 5 books written by Moses, is there going to be a change of context of how the Lord and God is being referred to and being described, because different gods are channeling through each of these people? That's option number 3 in my mind. Remember, guys, I look at different angles to try to figure out to see what makes the most sense to me. Option number 4, and like I said, that option not even considering, because I came into this quest that everything here. But option number 4 is this is just nothing but a tale of stories, completely fabricated. I'm throwing that idea out the window, but I'm just putting that to show different sides of what different beliefs may be in. So the Father and the Son are not the same. Lord means Baal, which is a false deity put by the King James Version. Okay, so I'm going to assume, since you didn't answer my quote means Baal, which is a false deity put by the King James Version. Okay, so I'm going to assume, since you didn't answer my question, I need to assume that you are on the side of atheism or agnostic, which is fine. I welcome all points of view in this discussion, and I've always said, I almost want people to disagree with me, not to argue and not to push a false narrative, but to give that different perspectives from different sides. So I think this is going to be interesting. So let me start with chapter 30. As of right now, we've already gotten the layout of his temple, of his tabernacle, I should say, of how he wants his priests to run. And like I said, from the point of view, I'm almost feeling like this entire chapter 21 to 30 does not belong in this book. That's what I'm feeling. And I know that sounds weird, but it's just the way. Okay, you know something? I'm going to say something bad, and please forgive me. The way he's describing how he wants specific rituals, how he wants the tabernacle design, how he's adorning his priest, it almost seems to me like a step-by-step grimoire ritual. And forgive me for saying that. And I mean, I don't mean to be blasphemy, but that's what it sounds like. And that's why I feel like these chapters just really don't belong. So I'm going to read 30. From what I'm looking at, 31 now gets back into the storyline. So let me just brush through 30, and if anything pops up, we'll see what it says. But just remember, my attitude is 21 to 30 seems to be this really selfish, idolizing, vain negativity that the Lord is expressing. And I know that's bad to think about it, but let's go on. Okay, chapter 30. And thou shalt make an altar to burn incense upon, of shittim wood shalt thou make. Now, please bear in mind, shittim wood, this is a 1954 version of the Bible. It's the same in my 1970s version. However, at some point, possibly after 1970, maybe 1980, they turned shittim wood into acacia wood. And hopefully, or acacia wood. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly. Please forgive me if my pronunciation is off. So my version says shittim, shittim wood. So I'm assuming it's the same type of wood. I'm thinking that they just changed the name, being that it sounds like... Anyway, so... Okay, so we're going on more with the altar creation. We already talked about how they're like literally sacrificing these things, and it just the way they describe the sacrifice is very gory and in detail. So we're talking more about the altar. A cubit shall be the length thereof, and a cubit the breadth thereof. 4 square shall it be, and 2 cubits shall the height be. The horns shall be the same. And see, I'm going to stop there. Why are there horns on the altar? Like, doesn't that seem evil? And let me go back for a second. I'm going to write this down. So there's horns on the altar. I'm assuming the horns they're talking about is the horns of the animals, because they're already killing bulls to put on this altar. Are they talking about horns as far as blowing instrument? I don't know, because they didn't necessarily define that. And I'm wondering, is it a horn of a musical instrument, which would almost seem like peaceful, or is it a horn of the animals? Because if that's the case, if it's the horn of the animals, let's go back to Genesis, and I'm getting caught on the fact that God is making animals of their kind, the sea creatures of their kind, the fowl of the air of their kind. However, man was of his kind, which is making me believe that there is a different God of the air, God of the creatures, which, remember, we're getting like elemental discussion in. Bretton's is more reliable because it doesn't get translated from the Masoretic text. Some things we don't know the context to unless it's revealed to us. You know something? I'm going to highlight that. Some things we don't know the context unless it's revealed to us. That is my quest right now, and that's why I ask for prayer and guidance, because I get very caught up when I read things, and it's not just the Bible, it's everything. I will get caught up in word choice and word usage. And I do admit that a lot of times my vocabulary and my pronunciation is completely off, that's why I'm the type that will look things up, that will highlight certain things, that will try to hone in on what is being said, because I really believe that word choice is an important thing, particularly if you're writing all this out. It doesn't specify whether it's the horns of the animal or horns of music. And going back to, like I said, I almost feel like the different creatures that are being made are from different gods. Because, like I said, man was the only one created in the image of God, whereas the animals were created in their image. So now, if we're putting horns on the altar, and it's of the animal, are we now worshiping the god of animals? That's one question. Now, if it's horns as far as music, that's a very different, interesting thing, because I almost feel like it ties into the melodic music, angel, the horns, that sort of thing, because even, poor thing, it's over for me. Now, why is it over for me, Mr. Hunter? I would love to hear that. I'll message you, connect with me there. I have to go back to work. It's a good thing that you're searching, which I'm trying to search. I appreciate that. Good luck. Have a great day. And I do run this replay back on YouTube. The only thing is I'm 2 days behind, because what I do is I save these, and then from my point of view, Mr. Hunter, it may not be over for me. This is just the beginning. I'm waiting to see, like I said, I'm expecting some sort of light bulb transformation, because obviously the God that's being described right this moment in Exodus is not the same attitude as what is being described later on. At least that's what I believe. Definitely not the same in the New Testament. I don't know how much with the Old Testament, but like I said, Christians tell me pretty much ignore the Old Testament because everything gets overwritten. So I could see why it gets overwritten in their belief. And yes, I am searching. It's like I said, this is only day day 23. We're on day 23. So this is 23 days into reading the Bible for the first time. So it's still new to me, and I'm still going word by word. Hunter's got nasty now. I'm beautiful in the name of Jesus. Did Hunter say something that I missed? Okay, I thought he said something else. It's never too late to accept Jesus as long as you're breathing. That's the beauty of it. Hello, Wisdom Seeker. Welcome. The beauty of God's grace. Thank you, Sarah. And like I said, that's one of the things I pray for is the strength. I know this type of show is going to bring opposition. I know that. And I almost feel like that is a message and a sign, because if I'm saying something and there's so much opposition, for me, that's a sign either I'm on the right track or I need to reevaluate it more. So something's telling me that I do need to reevaluate. And whatever way it's reevaluated, it can be positive or negative, but it's telling me that these chapters, I'm definitely, probably on my own, going to read very, very carefully. Because even as I'm reading this out loud for the first time, I'm getting very bored with it, if that's the word to use, simply because these instructions are so precise. It's like reading really intricate architectural design instructions. Something that me as a normal layman, me as a normal person wouldn't necessarily need to know. But like, these instructions are so exact. Like, is it necessary? We really need to know the measurements of the curtains and exactly what color to put the curtains on and how to divide it with the ring. I mean, to me, it's like, is this necessarily messages that a churchgoer would need to know Or is there more ritualistic pattern to what this is? So that's what I'm curious. God gives Moses instruction for building the altar of incense. He commands that it have horns. Yes, the question I have is, the horns, are they musical horns or are they beast horns? That's my question on that. I agree you should reevaluate, but saying it's over for you is wrong. Yeah, it's not over. I'm just beginning. That's my question, Wisdom. Why horns? And I'm still trying to figure out what horns we're looking. Okay, so it is the animal horns. So that's where that's where my doubt is. If I should say the word doubt. Are we worshiping right now? Is he being described? Because remember, these are the generations of creation. Are we literally being told in regards to the God of the animals? And remember, I split it into like 4 different theories. If this is the one and only God, okay, it just seems off than how he normally wants to be worshipped. However, if we look at, there's different gods. God of the water, God of the earth, God of the... You know what I mean? I'm wondering because I almost feel like, and I pointed this out in the last episode, that I'm saying, wait a minute. Each of these people are coinciding with different elements when they describe it. I said that the Lord was fire. I mean, they even said, Moses even made a song that the Lord is a man of fire, which I thought was weird that he said man of fire and not God of fire. God is always described in a water context. The serpent was described in an earth context, and the plagues were described in a wind context. So I feel like we're getting like these elemental being connected to people and events. Blood was applied to, which blood I would think would be a cleansing thing when you apply it to the horns. I've been wanting to do a deep dive study into the tabernacle. There's so much symbolism. Exactly. There is so much, and that's why I think when I clear my head, because I'm still caught up on the fact that I feel like this chapter doesn't belong in this book. And I know that sounds weird to say. It's just, I mean, I posed a question yesterday, and I said, take the word God out, take the word Lord out. If I went to a very religious person at this moment and started describing some of this stuff that is described here, I guarantee they will rebuke me and tell me that I'm speaking evil and that this is some sort of devil worshiping. I guarantee it. I unless they're well versed. And what I also find is that some of the most religious people are not well versed in the Bible at all. They are well versed in the quotes that are constantly regurgitated in church without any context. And I think that's where one of my issues with churches is because you have a sermon with a quote, but you never give the context of what the quote is. You never get the story behind the quote. It's, you have this quote. And that's why even with, I'm sorry, I forgot his name, the one that left for work that was putting all those quotes, I said to him, like, give me the context of those quotes. You're quoting those quotes, so what does it mean to you with those quotes? So that's my question. Okay, let me backtrack because I missed some stuff. Okay, so they are animal horns. You've been wanting to do, blood was applied to the horns. It's the act of atonement, cleansing, and forgiveness. I agree on that, the cleansing and forgiveness. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm frozen. The place of the horns, place of power, the horns, is covered by blood as an atonement. You just have to keep reading to get I agree, and that's what I'm doing. I mean, maybe that's a couple of times I read a line and I stopped and then had a bunch of questions, and then they said, keep reading, and it was like 3 lines down. So I am that type of person that, like I said, if I read something, a question will instantly come to my head, and I almost try to do like foreshadowing, thinking, okay, is this the way the story is going to turn? Which, if it doesn't turn that way, that's fine, because at least it justifies, all right, I'm on the wrong track. If it does, then it's like, okay, more is being said, so I am on the right track. That's just how a thinker and a reader that I am. So now I'm getting caught by the fact that there are horns on the thing. The blood is going to be a cleansing. It almost is, I mean, it's almost a precursor to the whole idea of communion. This is my body, this is my blood, that sort of thing. So I get the context here that it is, and we were describing wafers and stuff being given. So I understand that, but let's go on and see what happens. So we're on chapter 30, verse 3. At this rate, it's going to be a long time. Okay, chapter 30, verse 3. And thou shalt overlay it with pure gold, the top thereof and the side thereof round about, and the horns thereof. And thou shalt make unto a crown of gold. Okay, so once again, everything is being covered in gold. And this is where I'm thinking of old alchemy and old magicians, because it always was a quest to find a way to turn things to gold. And if you don't mind me saying, that alone is a problem. Why I'm saying it's a problem is we gave value to something that's no more than a rock. And even to this day, our entire monetary system is based on nothing more than a rock. We put power and symbolism behind it when there actually is no need. I mean, for me, and this is like utopia, for me, a perfect society would not even have a monetary system to begin with. How you go about buying, trading, that's another story. But, let's be honest, it's no longer gold back. That's true. I think back in the 70s, it was the whole thing, and the whole Fort Knox thing, yeah, it's probably completely empty. Gold represents holiness. I wonder why. Like, okay, why did we as a society put so much emphasis on gold? Why did even the Lord back then put so much emphasis on gold? Gold does not corrode and rust and is incorruptible. Incorruptible, I think you're trying to say. I could be pronouncing that word. But I know what you're saying. It's like, I mean, in a way, okay, another thing, and they speak about it a lot, is honey. Honey is the same way. Honey does not go bad. It does not, I mean, honey is the type of thing that will last forever. It's shelf stable. So you know what I mean? I mean, these are different things. I wonder why gold, though. You know what I mean? I would almost say that honey would be a bigger commodity than gold, because honey is something that is created. It's taken from living things through the flowers, converted through living things, the bees, and it's made into a substance which not only continues the life cycle of bees, but also it's a sweetness, it's this. So I would almost say, if there's any, and it's interesting that honey is golden color. But I almost want to say, because of its pureness, aren't there other metals and stuff like that that are just as... I guess it's just interesting. I feel like we put value on gold. Gold is created by God. Okay, that's an interesting... because that's the whole thing what I was saying about alchemy. They always try to be God to create this substance which they can't create. They can't mimic. They can't... there's... You know what I mean? They haven't found the way to truly make gold. Or at least as far as we know. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I don't know. But, so we are adorning this temple, this altar, with gold now. So everything's going to be covered in gold. All right, so let's go on. We're on chapter 30, verse 4. 2 golden rings shall thou make of it unto the crown, and by 2 corners thereof. Upon 2 sides of it shall it make, and they shall be places for the staves to bear with it. And thou shalt make the staves of shittim wood or acacia wood, whichever you say, and overlay them with gold. Thou shalt put it before the veil that is by the ark of the testimony, before the mercy seat that is over by the tent, where I will meet with thee. Okay, very interesting. Okay. So now we were talking about, what does it say? It's symbolic of how he wants us to worship. I understand that. I'm still questioning because how he wants to worship, to me, is very self-centered and vain. I almost feel like there's a hypocrisy where he's like, don't worship false idols in the commandments, but yet that's exactly how he wants to be worshipped. Does that make sense? I don't know. I find this interesting because, okay, they're creating this tabernacle. It's of gold. It has the seat that's next to, which the testimony is his commandments. So he plans on visiting this. So they are going to see him, or they are going to experience him, or he is going to be there. I almost feel like, and like I said, forgive me, I almost feel like this is so much grandering, so much show off. That's what, he's a jealous God. Why is he a jealous God? Where is the jealousy stemming from, and why? Because jealousy to me is a negative emotion. So why would the God of all beings have jealousy? What would he be jealous of if he is number one in all things? Usually jealousy stems from, in my opinion, is if there's something greater than you and you're trying to achieve that. So why would he be jealous? He wants to be worshipped, and the false gods wants to be worshipped like him. Because he created us, he is jealous. Because his creation people keep turning their backs on him. Okay, but he's giving us free choice. See, I find this to be a very, and like I said, I'm not trying to prove you guys wrong. I find this to be a very, very interesting debate. Jealousy to me, yeah, I agree, Bubba. Jealousy to me seems evil. And forgive me if I'm wrong. I'm going to give a scenario because this is what I'm feeling. If you were an Olympic gold medalist and you constantly top number one, what would you need to be jealous of? You're always going to be number one. Even if you fight for it, you are going to have oppositions. You're going to have other countries and this and that. We know Lord God, whoever you want to say, is always going to be number one. Even if people turn their back and root for the other team. Why would there be jealousy? Because then it shouldn't matter, because he is going to accept the ones that do follow him. And the people who don't follow him, it's almost like, okay, I gave them free will. They are not following me. So that should be okay. There shouldn't be any jealousy if he's all powerful saying, yeah, so you're following this little demon, you're following this little god. It shouldn't matter because I'm still number one anyway. I don't see where the jealousy would be there. Okay, let me backtrack because there's a lot of things that were said. Okay, yes, he's a jealous God. He wants to be worshipped, and the false God wants to be worshipped like him because he created us. He is jealous, yes. Because his creation people keep turning their backs on him, jealousy seems evil, okay. If your child called someone else mother, how would you feel? Interesting. I am going to answer this question. I know people, me personally, I do not have any children, nor was I ever adopted. However, there's a lot of people in different situations that will fit this situation where they will call somebody else's mother. Now, Chris's kids, I flat out tell them, I said, look, I will never be your mother. You have a mom. Your mom loves you. They live with their mom. I says, however, which they do call me stepmom. I think that's wonderful. Um, However, I just hope that in some points that the things that I teach them and the things I say to them and the guidance that I give will be held with some sort of respect or understanding or love, because they know that I'm only looking out for them. I don't know what it would be like if someone, like if a child called someone else mother, but I will say this: there are a lot of mothers out there who don't deserve that title, that they simply are a birth mom. And I mean, just to go as an aside, because I know some adopted people, I think one of the worst things as far as an adoptive parent compared to the child, and then I'm going to flip it. The worst thing an adoptive parent can say, particularly when they have multiple children, is call that child, this is my adopted son or this is my adopted daughter. No, that you shouldn't even say that. You shouldn't segregate a child simply because you are not the birth. You have taken a responsibility over that child. So you know something? This is your child. You are now their mother. You are now their father. You may not have been their birth mother or father, but you have now granted that title. So that is an interesting debate with the whole, if the child calls someone else's mother, how would you feel? Because like I said, I feel like there are certain parents that should never be parents. But that's an aside. I know I went on a different tangent. So let me see. If he forced us to follow him, it wouldn't be sincere on our part. I agree. And Sarah, here's a question. In a way, isn't he forcing them to follow? Because and what I mean by forcing, he freed the people. They followed him. They allowed. But even as they're following, he's flat out saying, if you don't follow my way, the whole Passover thing, if you don't follow my way, your firstborn is gonna get killed. I'm gonna send the plagues. I'm gonna do this. So I almost feel like he did force the people to follow him. Because if they didn't follow him, the consequences, a lot of the people who didn't put blood on their door during the Passover didn't believe him. And what happens because they didn't believe him? Their firstborn was killed. They were hungry. They were destroyed. They were killed. So the punishment that he gave for not following was extreme. So I believe he did force them to follow. That's how I view it. Let me see what's going on. The child should know better. I might have mixed the conduct. The child should know better on who their real mother or father is, or who they decide to follow, or what the intentions are of the person who loves them. It's a relationship. Would you want your husband praising other women? I would ask in what context. Chris and I, we've had an interesting talk about this, and we talked about interactions, friendships, and stuff like that. I have a point of view, and a lot of people could disagree. I see nothing wrong with him having a friendship with a female, or with me having a friendship with a male, as long as it's not sexual in nature. And I think that's where a lot of people will converge to, because there is that belief that you can't be friends with the opposite sex with the opposite gender without it being about sex. And I totally disagree with that. I have had friends all my life that I've never had any intimate relationships. I have male friends, I had female friends, and if you keep it that way, then I see nothing wrong with it. Praising other women, I mean, okay, if we're walking down the street, and I'm just using a bad example, and he's looking at a woman and say, wow, she's wearing a nice outfit, or something like that, as a physical thing, I would probably look at him like, yeah, that really is a nice outfit, or something like that, or she has a nice hairdo, or something like that. That would be praising, but it's not necessarily, it's a compliment. You know what I mean? This is a vague question, because I would ask what you mean by praising. That's the only thing I would need more information on praising, because if it's more the lines of talking, complimenting, interacting, I have no problems. If it's the line of crossing the line as far as being intimate, as far as um, sex, kissing, that kind of thing, then yeah, then there is a divide with that. I know other people may disagree, but it's like, even with, I'm not the jealous type of person. There are people who are very jealous. If Chris comes to me and says, "Hey, I'm going to go out with the guys tonight," I know he's a good man. I know he's not going to cheat. I know he's not going to do something stupid. And that's the same with me. However, at this point, he doesn't necessarily not want to do things with me. If and this was a funny thing in the beginning, and I know I'm going to go on. I'm missing a whole bunch of messages. I'll go on in just a minute, but he now wants to do things with me, whereas he used to do things by himself. He will invite me, and that caught me off guard in the beginning, because all right, like when we were together and I was living here, he said he'll be like, "Oh, Saturday, my friend David is having a barbecue. Um, we're good." He's like, "Saturday, David's going." So I would immediately say, "Okay, have fun, enjoy yourself." And he would look at me like, "What?" I says, "Go have fun. You're gonna have a guys' night out." He's like, "Babe, we're going together." And I looked at him like, "Wait a minute, I'm invited?" And he looked at me like that was the weirdest thing. He's like, "I wouldn't have mentioned that he's having a barbecue unless you were invited." And and I remember this, and I'm like, "So I'm going to meet your friends for the first time?" He's like, "Yeah." And it was the weirdest conversation, because in my head, I automatically assumed I'm excluded from things, that he would be doing things without me. So that was something that we had to come into communication, because I thought all this time when he tells me things that I'm excluded from it. He's like, "No, we're going together. We're going over to have a barbecue." I'm like, "Okay." All right, let me go on, because I know I'm getting off track. Badge. I missed what badge meant, so I'm not too sure what that means. Oh, I'm sorry. You just gave the gifter badge. Sorry, Bubba. It comes out weird in the writing. All I saw was badge, but now I understand what that means. Okay. But he knows our internal damnation if we don't follow him, and he loves us. Eternal damnation, but Sarah, here's a question. He wasn't giving eternal damnation, he was giving damnation on earth. So I almost feel like he's now giving a double punishment, because he punished the people while they're on earth, and then, which we don't know yet. As of right now, there is absolutely no talk about what happens in the afterlife, which I find that interesting. So I'm waiting for that point where we start talking about what happens to us when we die. There's absolutely no talk of that right now. So he almost gave us a double whammy, where he damned us on earth and is going to damn us eternally. If they're praising somebody else, they really don't love you. I'm going to disagree with that. I think that's a moral compass, a moral choice, or a litmus test. I don't believe, but like I said, I think the word we're getting caught on is praising. I would need you to define what praising is, because I'm seeing praising as complimenting, unless you're talking about praising in the terms of worshiping. That would be two different things. So I think I'm just getting caught on the term praising. Our punishment for not following now is also extreme. It's all foreshadowing. Okay, so it's going to be explained later on. I'll look for that when the light bulb moment. Would you want would I want my husband being intimate with other women? Absolutely not. And he feels the same way about me. He does not want me to be intimate with other men either. That is something we both discussed. We're strictly monogamous, and in a good way. However, the however is, and this is where, like I said, it could cause a debate with others, but it's not a debate with us. I see nothing wrong with him having female friends. He sees nothing wrong with me having male friends, as long as it's the context of. Hold on one second, guys. I don't know if you can hear that. Okay, it's not popping up. I'm getting a call, but but I'm just going to ignore the call. If it's ringing while I'm talking to you, I'm sorry, guys, but that's okay. Oh, there we go. Decline. All right, am I still on? I'm talking to you. I'm sorry, guys, but that's okay. Oh, there we go. Decline. All right, am I still on? I'm still on. Okay, sorry about that. So would I want my husband being intimate with other women? The answer is no to both. Bubba says, oh my god. Okay, I said something was like, oh my god. All right. I know I'm behind. I'm trying to catch up, guys. All right. So I'm wondering what I just said that was an oh my god moment. Okay. When says, when you serve other gods, it's like being intimate with that God. And that is why God is jealous. And once again, I'm going to say this. Even if you serve other gods, he gave the free choice. So in other words, they walked away and decided, you're not the one that I want. I still don't understand where the jealousy would come in, but I guess I'm looking at it from a different perspective. If he really gave us free will, then jealousy wouldn't be in the picture. Which makes me wonder, is free will under a false pretense then? Because if we had, because as of right now, I also question free will, because in every instance, God, an angel, the Lord, something divine has always interjected in every single scenario of this book so far. There's always been some sort of divine intervention. And it makes me wonder, are we giving a false sense of free will? To put it in modern terms, if you don't mind me saying, in the U.S., are we necessarily free? Or do we have the false persona that we're free? And it makes me wonder about that. Okay, so let me keep on going. So false gods enslave, disappoint, and destroys. I would agree with that. Yes. But I'm just wondering if that's what our God is doing as well, according to this. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I'm just going strictly by how the Lord is talking about. Wisdom says, I love him and only him. He don't need to be jealous. Love you, Jesus. Okay, like I said, I'm not trying to persuade any. And it's interesting, Bubba, that you said Jesus. And I'm not trying to, but a lot of people call in the name of Jesus. They don't necessarily call in the name of the Lord, or sometimes they'll interchange with God. Everybody keeps saying it's the same. The God that I know as Jesus, to me, is completely different than how he's being described here in the Word. And I think that's interesting, and that could be a key point as to why people call upon Jesus as opposed to calling on anything else. That's just a question. So, jealous in the context means deep covenant protectives, exclusive love. Wisdom says, I wish she let you go live with her so I can hear you talk. I kind of understand. Who do you wish to go live with? I wish she'd let you go live. Oh, I'm sorry. Bubba is saying that. Okay, Bubba is saying to Wisdom, I wish she would go live with her. We can discuss this. Wisdom, if that's something you want to do, I'm not going to do it now, but talk to me privately. If that's something you want to do, I wouldn't mind having a live debate with the boxes. I still have to figure out how to do those boxes. But if that's something you want to do, that would be great. Bubba says, would it be easier for me if I heard your voice? Oh, you mean Wisdom's voice. Okay. Sarah says, Chris has free will to be intimate with others, but he loves you and chooses. Absolutely. And that's the same for me. I have free will that I can easily, but that to him is the sacred point of a relationship. And he made his marriage, this would be his second marriage, but he had his marriage vows, which he took seriously. If he's going to do it again, which he wants to do it with me, and he understands how I feel and what my point of view and my perspective is, and he also knows about my past and what I've done, it's going to be a complete monogamous union. I mean, neither one of us, and people can say, oh, well, he could lie, I could lie. Yeah, that's true. Anybody could lie, but as strongly as we both feel,